Hello and welcome to another Process Street webinar. My name is Tony Brown and I'm one of the partnership managers here at Process Street. And I also have the privilege of working alongside the customer success team. In today's webinar, we're going to go through how you can use Process Street to collaborate with your customers and clients. And I'm joined today by one of our long-time customer success managers, Dina, who will be facilitating today's webinar for us. But before I turn it over to Dina, I should mention that we will stick around after the webinar to answer any questions you might have regarding the content we cover today or anything else Process Street related. You can submit your questions by going to the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window. So that being said, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dina. Enjoy the webinar.
Thanks so much, everyone, or thanks so much, Tony. Greetings, everyone. As Tony mentioned, my name is Dina, and I am a longtime customer success manager here at Process Street. As many of you know, there are multiple portals where you can connect with myself or someone from the customer success team, whether that's through our chat found in the lower right-hand corner when you're logged into Process Street, on a demo or onboarding call, and potentially even in person. It's really important to us that the things that get communicated via these channels are routed back to our team, whether that's general comments, feedback, praise, and most importantly, questions surrounding how you can achieve success in your own business. And that's what we're here for, helping you streamline your business needs and achieve your goals using Process Street. So the goal of this webinar is to shed light on what many of you are in need of and have been asking for directly. One of the most common questions we see is, how do I collaborate with my clients using Process Street? Or what are the best ways to invite my customers into Process Street so they can work on a checklist with me? So today we're going to cover how you can reach these goals, and bonus, this collaboration is free. I'm confident that all of you can easily achieve ultimate collaboration. I will lay out the guidelines, and what I ask from all of you is that you do take the time to set these things up and always think about long-term value. I do want to take a quick moment to cover today's agenda. So today we're going to cover inviting guests into your Process Street organization, which allows you to collaborate with a free user, giving them a Process Street account and monitoring their progress. Of course, you can use guests for clients and customers, but we will cover what's most efficient. We're also going to cover an alternative option to guests, which are anonymous users that can complete a checklist just by accessing a link. That feature is typically the checklist share link. Following that, we are going to cover how you can collaborate and capture data from dozens or even hundreds of clients and customers, all with a link. Then I do want to take a moment to talk about how you can share your templates with your clients and even give them access to run checklists on behalf of your own organization while viewing those templates. And finally, I do want to take time to talk about automations that will and just so you don't have to duplicate efforts. Again, I do want to mention that some of the topics we are going to cover today do take time to set up, but there are huge benefits down the road, including all of the time you will save setting up them, and to that, the customer service that you and your business will bring to the table. Okay, great. So first up is guests and inviting guests into your Process Street organization. So what are guests? Guests are free users of Process Street, and you can have 5 guest users for every paid member you have in Process Street. So if you have a team of 10, you can have 50 guest users in your organization. We recommend using guests if you service a small number of clients or customers per month, since there is a limitation on the amount you can have. And don't worry, we will cover larger customer bases later in the webinar. So what are the capabilities and benefits of guests? So first up, guests have their own Process Street account. And since they have an account, there's an audit trail of what they have completed. They'll never show up as an anonymous user, so you'll always know which guest is working on a process. They can also manually be assigned to tasks on an active checklist or a whole active checklist. Active checklist means you have already ran the checklist and you are selecting a specific task or tasks to assign the guest to, or you are deciding to assign them as an overall owner to the process. Overall owner simply means they are responsible for the entire checklist being completed. They'll also have access to the inbox feature, which will organize all tasks you've assigned to them based on priority. And priority simply means by due date. So the inbox smartly organizes your tasks, or their tasks, I should say, from most pressing to least pressing. You, as the administrator, will have access to their inboxes, so you can always see what they're working on. And lastly, while you can see what they are working on, they cannot see what you are working on. Guests can only see things that they've been manually assigned to or things they've been given permission to see. So let's also talk about some use cases that we commonly see for guests here at Process Street. So first up is onboarding for financial planners. Many of you with financial planning organizations service fewer clients per month, but on a larger scale. You also require the ability to collaborate with them heavily and see an audit trail of what they are completing. In this case, guests are a great option because you can run multiple checklists for your clients and even give them access to see everything that is being worked on their behalf. So great service there. Next would have to be business coaches. So here at Process Street, we have dozens, if not more, of organizations that use us for client coaching and lessons. This is a great use case for guests because you can give them access to all processes they need to succeed and collaborate along the way. You can even implement links to their next lessons right inside of their checklist, and I'll cover how to do that later in the webinar. Of course, being able to provide your coaching clients with a portal to their lessons will most certainly elevate the service you're bringing as well. Next up would be website building and creative agencies. So again, many of you using Process Street for clients in need of website building. And what I've personally seen work incredibly well is inviting those clients into your organization as guests and working with them throughout the month until that specific job has been completed. They will be able to collaborate with you on content, images, and videos. And later this year, they will even be able to approve a certain step in the process. You can also mention each other in the comments. So if they have a specific question about an image or what has been produced, they are able to send you an email notification right away. These types of processes tend to take quite a bit of time since there has to be a lot of communication between the two of you, and all the while you're managing their expectations along the way. Once you've completed that job and all associated tasks, feel free to remove that client as a guest so you can make room for your next one. Lastly, accounting and bookkeeping. So of course, these processes tend to run weekly or monthly, so there is a need to have the client or customer inside of the organization with you at all times. You can add them as an overall owner to the process once the checklist has been run. Also, feel free to schedule that process and then add them as users once it's live. That should save you some time as well. And then they will have an overall view on everything that is being completed for their books. In this example, it's really important that your guest user has the ability to see everything that is taking place so you can build trust and morale between the two of you. Okay, great. So how do we implement? So how do we invite guests into the organization and assign them to tasks while setting permissions? So I do want to navigate here to Process Street. And so first thing to keep in mind is that 5-to-1 ratio. So ensure that you have enough licenses for the amount of guests that you need. Then you want to navigate to your organization settings here in the upper right-hand corner. And then it's really simple. You enter in your guest's email address and then name, and then ensure you check off invite as guest. You want to make sure we hit invite as guest and then invite. And now an invitation has been sent to your guest with instructions on how to join your Process Street organization. So again, that's automatically sent. If your guest ever has any trouble, please tell them that they can contact support at support@process.st, or they can connect with us in the chat in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We do want to support your customers just as much as you do. Navigating back to the home page, so there's other ways to invite guests quickly as well. So another way is on an active checklist. If I just go to an active process here. So again, active means processes that have already been run, and you can see examples of that here. So if I click on a checklist here, you'll see at the top of every task, there is an assign function here. So same thing, I can enter in my guest email address, and what this will do is assign them to this task and invite them as a guest into my Process Street all at one time. Another quick way to invite guests into the organization is via this right-hand menu here on the right-hand side. So this is where the overall owner lies. So right now, by default, whomever runs the checklist is the overall owner of the process. So I ran it, you'll see me here, but I can unassign myself if I'd like to, or I can keep myself there alongside of my guest. And then same thing here, assign users bar, enter in guest's email address, and that will invite them into the organization as a guest, as well as assign them to the overall owner of the process. So it's really as simple as that. What I like about this option is that it's a bit faster than inviting them through the organization settings. So it's definitely a little bit of a time saver. Also too, when you're going through a process, you can decide which tasks you'd like to assign them to. So inviting and assigning is super simple, right? Really easy, easily achievable. But we can also take it a step further. Many of you who are collaborating with guests have a need to keep certain parts of the checklist private from them. We have certainly been asked the question, how do I have my client just see one portion of the checklist if they are a guest user? And the answer is with task permissions. So task permissions, which is our newest feature on Business Pro, allows you to show and hide tasks from internal and external facing users so you can keep parts of your process private. And it's really easy to implement these permissions. So what you'll want to do is first navigate to the template editor that you're wishing to set permissions on. So we just go into the template editor here. And what you'll see, I already have that set, but by default, it will say permissions here. So at the top of every task, you have a permissions option. So if you click on permissions, you'll see 3 different toggles to turn it on for your members, your guests, or your share link, or off, of course, if it's gray here. So what you want to ensure is that any tasks you do not want a guest to see, set that off. So it's not green, we toggle this off for guests. You can also, just to make your life easier, you can multi-select tasks as well, and then set permissions for your guests all at one time. And so you'll want to ensure that you save your changes. I already have mine set up accordingly. And then now, when your guest accesses the tasks you've assigned to them, all of the tasks that have had permissions turned off for the guest will not be visible. So for example, here, what I did, I have customer-facing tasks that I would only like my guest to see. I only want them to see these tasks and none of these other internal-facing tasks. So here's an example of what your guest will see once you set those permissions, just customer-facing tasks with some of their assignments. So of course, there's huge value here. If you're working on a process collaboratively with a client, but again, you don't want them to see maybe tasks that are discussing their pricing options or any other back-end work from you and your internal team, you can set up your processes to fit those needs. Guests are a great option, so definitely use them to your advantage. It will allow you to provide a next level of customer service that your customers and clients won't forget. And of course, we will be providing that next level of service alongside of you here at Process Street. So I want to switch gears a bit. We're absolutely still covering collaborating with our clients and customers, but what if my client just needs access to a checklist one time? Or what if my client has trouble creating extra accounts or simply does not want to log into another system in order to collaborate with me? If that's the case, we have another option called the checklist share link. The checklist share link is a link specific to one checklist that can be turned on for access. It can be accessed by as many collaborators as you like, and we can also set task permissions for the share link as well. So a common use case for the share link are training courses, for example. So let's say you're running a training for multiple groups and you need to send out a single checklist to each group or even the group as a total. You can easily capture and send a share link to individuals in that group or again, the entire group. You can also use the checklist share link to send out a summary to your clients of work that is being completed for them so they can see all steps that are being completed for a specific project or job. And then also, as mentioned before, we can also use the checklist share link for client onboarding. Why not? So onboarding doesn't just have to be completed with guest users. Sometimes we just need a user to work on a checklist one time, and inviting them in as a guest for one task or one checklist doesn't always seem feasible. So in that case, the share link would be a more friendly option. So how do we capture and send a checklist share link? So this is really easy. If we navigate back to our active checklist again, here we are on an active process, you'll see first thing that you want to keep in mind, what I would say or recommend is name the checklist name with your client or customer's name. That way when they receive the share link, they know that it's a process specifically designed for them. Then on the right-hand menu here, by default, the share link option is turned off. All you have to do is turn it on, copy the link, and then you can send it to any recipient of your choosing, and they're able to access this checklist. In an example here, what I've done is I've built an email template and a website form field. This website form field is pulling into the body of this email, and I just copied this link, pasted it here, and I have an email template built. It's also pulling in my client's email address. So now when I'm in the process, I just hit send. It will open up in my default mail client. I hit send again, and then a checklist share link with any permissions that I may have set is ready to be sent to my client or customer. And we set the permissions in the same way that we set them for guests as well. And don't forget, with the checklist share link, there's no login required. Something nice to do also with the share link is to create a summary report of what has been collected on behalf of that client or customer. So if we come down here, you'll see I've created a task that just says summary of information. So it's actually pulling Billy's name and email address, sign up date, and plan from the previous task above, similar to how we pulled in those fields into the email widget. And that's really simple as well. So if we go into the template editor, what you'll want to do is grab a text widget, and then you'll create your labels, maybe a description up top of what they can see down below. And then when you click on this variable wand, you can populate again any pieces of data from any other task for your guest or for your anonymous user via that share link to see. What I also like about this is if there's any information you don't want them to be able to edit, you can just give them access to view this task and not the task where the data was actually populated. So they just see a summary report without being able to change anything on the process. And that can be, again, included inside of your share link as a visible task as well. So just to keep in mind, if we navigate back to that email when we send out the share link, this email can also be automated. The sending of this email can be automated utilizing Zapier by selecting our new task check trigger, which will allow you to automatically send the email to your client based off of any task of your choosing being completed. To see more on that, please visit our Zapier help article that covers creating an email automation off of a task being checked off. Okay, great. So the next feature I want to talk about is called the checklist run link. So the checklist run link is a link you can capture from any template of your choosing. And when one of your clients clicks on it, it will automatically initiate a single checklist for your client or customer to complete. There's great value with the checklist run link because it allows you to send out checklists to dozens or even hundreds of clients at one time. Or let's say you want to send out a survey or just have a way to collect information and data from countless of your customers at one time. You can do just that. You can also embed run links into checklists that your customers are already using, and they can automatically initiate the next checklist they need to complete from the one they are working on. You just want to place those links inside of the template editor. So great, some common use cases for the checklist run link are, again, linking lessons together for your clients or customers. I see many of you embedding run links into final steps of processes, great job. And once your customer clicks on that link, it takes them to the next process they need to complete. This is great for coaches, trainers, or really any process that would have an additional process follow. Also, as mentioned previously, surveys. So this is great for any business wanting to collaborate with their customers. Regardless of your industry, almost all businesses have a need to collect client and customer feedback, right? But it needs to be gathered in a way from them where it's easy for them to give to you, but also easy for you to receive. You can even export that data collected from all surveys and export it to a CSV report from the template editor. Okay, great. So how do we go about capturing the checklist run link for our use? It's really simple. So if we navigate again back to our handy dandy process street organization. So example here, a customer questionnaire. Let's say, or something I've heard is many of you wanting to replace a type form or a Google form. So let's say you want to replace those form applications and you create the same survey or questionnaire that you would have created there. So you build your template just like you normally would. Then you click on the template cog, you select more. Then you'll see an option here that says run checklist link. So I click here. And what's really important to keep in mind are the permissions that we see here. We have only organization members can create a new checklist and anyone can create. We want to set the permission level to anyone can create a new checklist. That's super important here. And then all you do is copy and send the link out. And then once your clients and customers click on it, a brand new checklist is automatically initiated for them to go through and complete. And as I mentioned before, of course, you can export all of those responses via the template overview. We did also talk about linking processes together with the checklist share link. So the steps are similar, but a little bit different. So we still come to this page that we see here. Anyone can create, but there's an option here that says link options. So for example, let's say I have my client working with me on their client onboarding process. Inside of that process, I would like to take them to this customer questionnaire so I can get feedback on what they have been doing on the customer onboarding process, right? So what I can do is actually add variables to this process that I can pull in from the customer onboarding process. So maybe the customer questionnaire, I would like to pull in a checklist name from the previous process, that onboarding process. Maybe also, I don't want to have them fill in their name and their email address again. I'd like to make it simple for them. I can pull in the customer's name and then the customer's email. All of these fields you're seeing here are form fields that have been created in the customer questionnaire. So now what it's done, it's created this nice long link for me with these X's that I'm going to replace with variables from the onboarding process. So all I do is I copy this link here, select done, and then I'm actually going to go back into this initial process here. So I'm going to click on the template cog and go into the template editor. Then what we want to do is have a step in the process where they can actually click to access that survey. But first we need to actually build the link to pass through those variables. So you want to grab a text widget and then you'll paste that nice long link into that text widget there. Then where these three X's are, we're going to replace them with variables, which will again take data or the answers that have been populated in this checklist and pull them into our checklist, our customer questionnaire that will be initiated. So in this case, let's say I would like the same checklist name to be pulled in, and that's pretty common because again, the checklists are usually named by the client or customer's name. And then same thing here, I'd like to pull in the customer's email. Also important to keep in mind, these don't have to match. So you can pull in anything that you'd like into any field, definitely. So customer email there, and then same thing, I want to pull in my customer name as well. And so from here, what you want to do is just to make this a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I am going to copy this entire link, click on the link chain, copy the URL, and then I can say, link to the survey, whatever you'd like, okay. And so now I have a nice, pretty short link for my client or my customer to click on. So I'm just going to go ahead and discard these changes because I've built one right before this webinar. And then if we go back to Billy's onboarding checklist here, if we scroll down, when I click on this link, what should happen is that a new checklist from the questionnaire should be initiated. It should be named with Billy's name. Billy's name should be populated in the name form field as well as Billy's email address. So if I click here, what we'll see is perfect checklist questionnaire titled with Billy's name and some information, Billy's name and Billy's email address is pulled through via that run link. So again, use this for anything that you'd like. Any process you can link together. If you want to pull data from a previous process into a next one, just add those variables. You can really use this for many, many different use cases. So map those out, and certainly you can come to us with any use cases you find and we can help you implement. Okay, great. So there is one more topic native to Process Street that I would like to share with you all, and it's called the template share link. So a template share link is a link you can capture from any template, and depending on the permissions you set, you can either allow your clients or customers to run checklists off of it, or in addition to that, give them the ability to import the processes you've created into their own organization. So let's say you're a consultant who helps businesses set up their accounting processes. While you can give them the ability to run checklists off of the accounting processes that will live in your organization, you might also want to give or gift them processes you've created so they can use them in their own Process Street organizations. All of the consultants we work with want their clients to be successful, and part of that is actually giving them processes you've created. If you're helping a client set up their business or business processes, you could even create a document with links to every process they will need, and they can go through and import them into your organization. So that's actually a really nice segue into our affiliate program. So here at Process Street, we offer a partnership program where you can receive 20% commission off of the first 12 months for any sales from the referral you bring in. We have a number of customers who are simply helping others set up their own SOPs, and by getting them to sign up for Process Street, you can get some money back in your pocket. Along with that, we can help you find the best ways to take the processes you've created and share them with other people, which also tracks back to your affiliate account and gives you a commission if they sign up for a paid subscription. We even have some partners who we have set up with free access to their clients' accounts for an agreed period of time. So they can help them get set up and provide them with training and support without your client incurring any additional member fees. We are also in the process of developing our reseller program, where you can become an approved Process Street reseller and get higher commissions over a longer period of time. If you have any more questions on the partnership program, you're more than welcome to reach out to our amazing partner affiliate manager, Tony Brown, who you heard from at the beginning of this webinar, at tony.b@process.st, and we'll be sure to include his information in our follow-up email to all of you. Okay, great. So how do we implement and capture the template share link? This one's really simple as well. So if we navigate back to Process Street here, let's say I want to pass off my sales to service handoff processes, and I would like to import those and have the ability to import those into my client's organization, and they can import them via the link. So all I do is I click on the template cog, so navigate to your process, click on the cog, and instead of selecting more like we've been doing, we actually want to select Share Template. So then from there, we want to click on the center option here that says Share Link. And you'll notice again, permissions. So three different permissions. Only organization members can view this template and create shared checklists. Anyone with the link can view this template, and anyone with the link can view this template and create shared checklists. So for this type of collaboration, what we would like are either B or C here. So this option, anyone with the link can view this template, allows them to import the process into the organization, the process you've created, and then they can use it for their own use for their business. The one right below allows you to do the same thing as above, but also run checklists that will live inside of your organization. So if you'd also like them to run a checklist on behalf of your org or business, they're able to do that as well with this permission level. Okay, great. So far in the webinar, we've covered a lot of great native features inside of Process Street that allow you to heavily collaborate with your client base. But it's also important to remember that collaboration goes beyond just what you can do with your clients at Process Street. Many of you, if not all of you, manage your clients and customers with a CRM, whether that's Salesforce, Close.io, HubSpot, etc. So it's important that we understand that we can create automations between our CRMs and Process Street that allow us to complete more processes for our clients and further collaborate. So you can create various types of automations between your CRM and Process Street, but I'd like to focus on a specific process that really enhances collaboration. So the use case I'd like to cover is client and customer onboarding for any industry. So let's say you're a financial planner, business coach, SaaS company, really any industry that requires you to successfully onboard those you're working with, you'll find value in integrating your CRM with Process Street. So let's say you're using Salesforce to manage your clients for your SaaS services. Each time you have a new client, you have a list of steps that need to be completed by your customer success manager, yourself, and even your client. What you can do is set up an automation between Salesforce and Process Street that each time an opportunity is closed and you've converted your client, you can have their onboarding checklist run in Process Street, pull in any client data into form fields, including their name, phone number, services they're receiving, really any other piece of information you think is relevant to their onboarding process. And in addition to that, you can automatically assign them to certain parts of the process only for them to see and keep all other parts of the onboarding process private for you and the internal team. Okay, great. So how do we implement? So again, we're going to be using Zapier. So Zapier, third-party integration application, again, that we use to enhance some of Process Street's internal functionality. So the first thing we want to do inside of Process Street is ensure that our onboarding process is set up accordingly. So create all form fields you need to pull data into from Salesforce or collect during the onboarding. And also set up all assignments for your internal team and your client as well. So you'll set up your template just as you can see here, pulling in appropriate form fields that I need into my template editor and then saving the changes. Then what you'll want to do is think about your assignments for your clients. So go through what are the tasks that my clients need to complete. So you want to create an email field in your template to capture their email address. And from there, we can decide. We can either pull that in from Salesforce or enter it in manually. Then with that email, We can use role assignments, which is another new feature here at Process Street, to assign tasks to that email field. So instead of assigning it to a user, I'm going to say assign it to that email field. It will use the email address entered in that field and invite the client to complete their tasks. Then we can take it a step further. We can use task permissions to hide all internal tasks from guests. The invitation of the email field will invite your clients in as guests automatically, so we can use the guest permissions. So remember earlier we saw members, share link, and guests. So we just use the guest permissions to hide certain tasks from guests since they will be invited in as guests. And just as I mentioned a second ago, those things will invite your clients in to complete their tasks automatically and hide all internal facing tasks from them. You also want to ensure that you have assignments for other departments and team members set up in place. That's really important as well. And you can also place stops in between them. So where you see that little hand right next to the due date, that's where you can add stops. So what stops do is they create enforced order. So it makes your team members and your client complete a process in the manner in which it was designed. But what it also does is it prevents the next assignee from being notified of their task until the previous task has been completed. So it's a great way to do a handoff between client, customer success, and admins. So after your template is set up, you choose your trigger in Salesforce. A trigger is simply something that kicks off an automation, and we will start a checklist from the template you've just created. So again, match them up accordingly to whatever you need. Salesforce has 15 triggers to choose from, including new contact, new lead, new account, and many more. So once one of those things happens, you can have your checklist created inside of Process Street. And you'll see here our Process Street actions, which are creating your checklist or updating a checklist as well. So after you pick your template, you'll be able to choose which pieces of data from Salesforce you want populated into form fields in your checklist. Make sure again to pull in the client's email into that email field we used for the assignments previously. Finally, you'll just test your Zap and turn it on. And so now each time you have a closed opportunity, a new onboarding checklist will automatically run, pull in client data, and automatically assign your client to their tasks while bringing in your internal team accordingly. Just one more quick note on automations. We recently released an enhancement to our Zapier capabilities. You can now find and update an active checklist with new information. So if there's any changes to your CRM, you can have that reflected in your checklist. If you want more information on automations, I do encourage you all to watch one of our highest rated webinars. It's amazing. It's on advanced automations led by my colleague Blake Bailey. We'll be sure to include a link to that recording when we send out this one. Also, when you sign up for a paid plan of Process Street, you are offered a 30-minute complimentary onboarding call. So we're happy to walk you through automations during that time as well. So as we're reaching the end of our webinar, I do want to take some time to talk about what you can hope to see that is upcoming at Process Street. Lots of things in the work. So coming soon, we have approvals. So for example, if you want to approve your client's work in a checklist before they can move on to the rest of the process, you can set this up with approvals. Right now, many of you are doing workarounds with conditional logic where you need a task to be approved by an admin or a guest client. So we've helped you find these workarounds, but now we've taken all of your feedback and requests and are creating a feature to specifically serve this purpose. We have a new feature that will implement this approval process for you, and our expected release will be Q4 of this year, and we'll have a lot more updates along the way about what you can hope to expect. I'm really excited. We also have a dashboard redesign coming soon as well. So we received a great deal of feedback on our customers wanting a more global view of their open processes. So this will be available to you with the dashboard redesign. Think about your template overview right now that currently gives you an overview report of all open checklists across a specific template. Your new dashboard will give you a similar report, but across your entire organization. Really exciting. And then last but certainly not least, you can also expect to see a mobile app for iOS as well as Android to follow. So before we wrap up and do an overview of what we've covered today, I do want to take a few more moments of your time to talk about why we've seen success with our customers utilizing Process Street for collaboration. So first thing is visibility and transparency. Our customers here at Process Street have a need to see everything that their own customers are working on, and we allow you to do just that. And at the same time, it's important that everything that is being worked on is available to your customer. Process Street allows you to see everything you need to see while allowing you to be fully transparent with your client base. Next thing is clarity. I was actually talking to my colleague Anne, hey Anne, the other day, and she mentioned an organization that was digging for client information and responses in an email before they found Process Street. So now the entire process takes place with us, and it's always easy to find information and know what status a client process is in. Everything is in the checklist. The entire team and your customer will have clarity. Then I would have to say simplicity. You can make this process extremely easy, clean, and efficient for you and your customers. I hear this feedback almost every day, how easy it is and how simple it is to share processes and how easy it is for external users to work through processes. There really isn't an excuse not to collaborate with others. And lastly, time. Not only do these collaborative checklists show you progress with due dates, if you streamline this process, you will save time. I hear from customers daily telling me they saved X amount of hours or even a certain amount of days by streamlining collaboration. Also, bringing in your client allows you to focus on other work from them since you're saving time completing tasks you would have otherwise completed. Also, please reach out to us and let us know what benefits you've seen from implementing what you've learned today. We would genuinely love to hear it. So again, thank you all so much for joining me today. Just to recap what we've covered, utilizing our guest option for your clients to give them access to their own Process Street accounts and assign them to checklists and tasks. We also covered utilizing the checklist share link, which lets you send out a custom view of a checklist to any customer or client of your choosing. We also covered utilizing the checklist run link to get hundreds of instances of your checklist created at one time. We also talked about integrating your CRM with Process Street and using automations to your advantage to onboard your clients quickly and efficiently. And we also touched on the template share link in our affiliate program, which will allow you to pass along your processes and set up your clients for success in their own businesses. My colleague Ellie on the customer success team has been working on a supporting article for all of you today that will go along with this webinar, and you'll have that as a guide. You will be able to find that in the help section when it's published. I'm going to pass it over now to my colleague Tony for a special offer.
Okay, thank you very much, Dina. That was extremely valuable so far. Now, before we move on to the question and answer session, for those of you that have stayed with us this far, we'd like to give you a special offer. Now, you heard Dina mention that we have a number of new features about to be released, including approvals and a dashboard redesign and a few other things in the pipeline. What we'd like to do is to give you the opportunity to get early access to these new features. And to do this, all you need to do is simply email us at support@process.st with the subject line early access. And we'll send you instructions of how you can get early access to those new features. So with that being said, I'll hand back over to Dina and my other colleagues from the CS team to answer some of your questions.
Great. Okay, so looks like we have a question from Thomas. Hi, Thomas. Thank you for joining us today. Can you control permissions for tasks in a process on the checklist share link? Yes, you absolutely can. So on the upper right-hand corner, again, when you go into the template editor, you'll see those three toggles, and you just want to ensure that if you don't want a client or customer or external user to see a task when they're viewing it via the share link, that it is toggled off when viewing it for the share link. And also, Thomas, if you want to go through and set those permissions quickly, just hold down Shift or Command, go through and set them all for the share link to off or on. Looks like we have another question from Robert. All external app integration is done through Zapier. So Robert, currently the answer to that is yes, but we are working on an API where you'll be able to build your own integrations here in the future. And we'll have more information on that hopefully pretty soon for you. Okay, so if you are using the link to send customers a checklist, i.e. if we have too many customers to use a guest feature, is the template public? So no, it's not. So there's a difference between making your template public, which you can also do, and there's a difference between sharing it. It won't be searchable on Google. That would be another option that you would have to set manually yourself. So no worries about that. Will not be visible on Google. So Patrick, I am starting a coaching business. Do you have a use case I can look at that would help me set up correct processes for that? So Patrick, there's actually a group that we work with. I'm happy to actually, if you can send in your email address if you're still with us. I'll reach out to them and ask them if they're open to sharing any of their processes with you. They do some coaching, and I think that it might be valuable to take a look at their processes. So just let us know if you're still with us and send us over your email. So Sebastian, will it be possible to run new checklists that are automatically shared with anyone with the link? So Sebastian, you'll have to use the very third permission on the template share link. So the one that's anyone with the link and can create shared checklists, and then they'll be able to create new checklists. So we'll stick around for another minute or two. Please send in your questions. Looks like we've answered everything that's come in thus far, but I just want to make sure, again, everybody has an opportunity to ask any question that they may have.
So if you wouldn't mind, Dina, actually, there's a couple questions that Tarek, Jason, and I, a couple members from our customer success team, jumped in and answered while you were doing an excellent job on this webinar. So I'm going to actually run through just a couple of those that have come in while we're waiting on some more new questions to come in, just to kind of review what's been happening there, just in case anyone missed it. So first off, someone asked about ActiveCampaign and Insightly automations and realistically integrations. Both of those are available through Zapier. And for any of you guys that are looking for potential integrations, go to zapier.com/apps. That's APPS. Just go to their website and click the word apps. Anyways, you'll see it there. And then search for any tools that you've got. There's about 1,500. And you can see whatever integrates to Zapier there directly integrates to Process Street. And even if you don't find it, say through your own solution or something like that, you can use that Webhooks by Zapier utility. And then otherwise, I've also got a question someone asked about integrating with WordPress. It's another available integration. Another person asked about Slack. That's also available. Multiple people asked if we're going to be emailing the recording of the webinar. We are going to be emailing out the recording of the webinar within the next week or so. Someone else asked about pricing information and being able to start a new account. You guys can do that. You can check out pricing information and add process.st/pricing. And I think those are the main questions that people asked about that weren't just brought up from these new questions.
Okay, great. So it looks like, okay, so can you please elaborate on the multiple steps to take to ensure that links are not going to be public? So if you click on the template cog and you select more, there's an option that says add to public library, and that will make your template public, not creating a share link and then sharing that with others. Only if you actually manually go into the template, click on the template cog, select more, and add to public library. So again, no worries. Process will not be public unless you went through and you set those settings.
There was also a question asked earlier from Jordan, which I think will be of value to everyone else on the webinar. And it was, if you remove a guest, can they continue to see the tasks stroke checklist that they were assigned to previously?
So any sort of tasks, so if you remove that guest, those tasks are always going to be still available no matter what. If you are that guest, however, once a checklist, say, has become archived or anything or completed, you will not see it anymore unless someone makes it active again. But yeah, so if you get removed and then added back in without it being archived or completed, you'd be able to see it. But whenever it does get archived or completed, it essentially disappears for you. But those tasks do still exist inside of the organization forever, regardless of if you remove a guest or anything like that.
Great, thank you, Blake. If there are any other questions, again, we'll stick around for a couple of more minutes. Really great to have all of you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you ever need my support, Blake's support, Jason, Tony, Tarek, and Ellie, our entire customer success team, you can always reach out to us at support@process.st. We do have a shared inbox, and we're ready and willing to answer any of your questions at any time of day. Okay, so when you use a client link, their responses are captured in a Process Street account, or is this considered an anonymous user and the responses are considered anonymous? So if you're using, for example, a checklist run link, it's going to be captured in your Process Street organization. So they'll go through, they'll fill in all of the data, but the data will only be available to you inside of your organization. And what you can do is just click on the name of the template, and on the very upper left-hand corner, there's two options. You'll see the template view, where you can see all of the lists inside inside of that template. And then to the left-hand side, you'll see an option that says Overview. If you click on Overview, it will list all of the responses and all of the checklists that have been initiated. Again, those belong to you. So when they're working through a link, those live inside of your Process Street organization. Okay, it looks like we have a couple of more. Okay, so we use virtual assistants and give them access to checklists. Sometimes things don't work out and we need to revoke their access. How would we do that? So you can go through and unassign them and then remove them from the organization. That will remove and revoke their access into the organization and the associated tasks. So is there a difference between scheduled phone support for Basic Business and Business Pro? So no, it's all the same. So long as you're on a paid plan, you have access to phone support. Of course, again, you do have access to a free complimentary 30-minute onboarding call when you sign up for any paid plan, Business, Business Pro, annual or monthly, and we're able to get you onboarded as quickly and efficiently and answer any questions that you have. Also, if you write into our chat in the lower right-hand corner, there are times that we have kind of some downtime. We can hop on a call with you really quickly to answer any support questions, so we're happy to do that as well. I missed the first 20 minutes of the webinar, alarm clock issue, trust me, I understand. So if I can ask, if you have to have a customer set up as a guest, or you can just use the email field to give them access to the checklist. So Rachel, using the email field will technically invite them into the process as a guest. We are going to send out a recording of the webinar. There's an alternative option called the checklist share link, and you can capture a link and then send that to your external user or to your client. That way you don't have to invite them in as a guest and they'll be able to access that checklist. So Bruce, is there notifications, alternate flows on things like stalled or incomplete processes? Example, new client does not complete a step in 3 days. We want to reach out to them. I joined mid-webinar. Sorry, no worries, Bruce. So Bruce, there's a feature inside of Process Street called dynamic due dates. And what you're able to do is set a due date based on a task, X amount of time, after a previous task has been checked, or even set it based before or after the checklist due date or checklist start date. So what you can do is you can set up a step inside of your process where you reach out to that client. So it's a step where you reach out and then you can set a dynamic due date or a specific due date on that. Setting those due dates, so if you set an assignment along with the due date, it will notify you once that task is available to you. So once you've been assigned and that task opens up, and you'll receive another due date. Maybe again, if it's 3 days after you've completed the first task, you'll receive a due date once that task is due for completion. So you can set up your process to receive those notifications and trigger an email notification for you to go in and notify the client that you'd like to reach out once again. So Thomas, would virtual assistant be a user, guest, or share link to be able to revoke access? So really it's up to you. So guest, again, we would have to just remove them and unassign their tasks. Share link is pretty simple. You just have to turn the share link off. And if you turn the share link off, it no longer works. So that toggle that you saw, or that option on the right-hand menu, on or off, we just switch it to off. It no longer works for the VAs. Okay, great. So we're reaching the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Again, it was a pleasure having you all with us today. Once again, you can always contact support at process.st for any further assistance, and my team will be ready and willing to assist you. And we will be sending out a recording of this webinar with links to the automations webinar, Tony's information as well, and anything we feel that might be relevant. So again, we look forward to having you on the next webinar, and happy systemizing.